Hey everyone, John here with Confetti Dogs. Let's talk off-leash reliability. Over the next 4 to 7 weeks, I'm going to be working on training my dog Rip, who's a 2-year-old Australian cattle dog or blue heeler. And he is quite the dog. He's about 42, 43 pounds, full throttle kind of dog, packs it real tight, strong, would totally run off right now if I let him. And we've had him for about 4.5 months, I think it is. Anyways, I really want to get him off leash, and I kind of want to document it for anybody who's interested. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I would really, really love for you to follow along, whether on Instagram or in our Confetti Dogs learning community. You can go to this link up here. So the way I like to train for off-leash reliability, I sort of break it down into 7 really important pillars, at least from my perspective. And I think if you spend some time developing these and learning these and practicing these, you'll find a lot of success in your training. On the other side, if you neglect 2 or 3 of these pillars, I think you're going to struggle and you're going to be frustrated with your dog's responses to you when you're out off leash with them. Here's a quick breakdown of the 7 pillars that I'm going to be working through with my own dog, Rip. And I think these are really important. I hope you'll take a listen. The first pillar is reflecting on why you even want to train your dog to be off-leash reliable in the first place. Like, what is your motivation for this angle of the training world? Why do you want your dog to be able to come back when called or be responsible off-leash? Pillar number 2, your relationship with your dog, the dynamics of your relationship. So at face value, before any training, before any this or that, essentially, does your dog even have a reason to want to run back to you? Does your dog want to check in with you and see what's going on? And if your dog just doesn't care about that, then you need to invest more time in the relationship and building that trust and building that play connection, which we'll talk about as we develop this whole thing. What is your relationship like with your dog? Is it only transactional, like where your dog's connection to you is based on food and treats all the time? That's super transactional, not good for recalls. Just some things to think about. Your relationship with your dog is a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. Pillar number 3 is what I like to call front-loading the finishers. And there's a lot to this, but basically, once you've established a relationship with the dog, then you really need to start preparing finishing tasks for your dog that you'll use later when your dog is running back to you. So let's say your dog's 50 yards out somewhere in the future, and you call your dog, and your dog is running back to you. And maybe when they get like 15 to 10 feet away, you yell the word through, or you yell the word touch, or you yell the word ready, or whatever it might be. And these skills or these obedience commands are going to be used as finishers so that your dog feels like, oh yeah, as I'm running back, I also have this cool thing I've got to accomplish. And dogs like tasks, like they just do. Most of them really, really do, especially if you teach them that rhythm. They look forward to finishing that because 1, there might be a reward, but 2, it's just like, it just seals the deal in situations like that. But yeah, front loading the finishers. Okay, pillar number 4 would be your commitment to scaffolding your dog's learning, your dog's understanding throughout the training process. Simply put, if your dog can't recall to you, let's say on a 15-foot long line in your backyard where there's not a whole lot going on, if he or she can't recall to you there successfully many, many times, why would you expect them to recall to you from 100 yards away somewhere in the Catoctin Mountains? It just doesn't make sense. If your dog can't add and subtract, don't ask them to multiply and divide. Pillar number 5 would be you actually working on your response, the quality of your response to when your dog actually does come back. So working on your skill set. When your dog runs back, you don't want them to run to a brick wall, right? That's not fun, right? Don't be boring, right? So we'll go over all of this as time goes on, but being an interesting person when your dog is running towards you really, really matters. So sometimes we think of commands as like, I say this and my dog must do this. Um, yeah, but couldn't you do a little bit better being interesting, right? Couldn't we do that? Can't we be creative with that? Be dynamic and engaged with our dogs? So building up a skill set of how you respond is something I work with my clients on a lot, especially on recalls, because it really does matter. Pillar number 6, training for the contingency plan or having a seatbelt or safety belt. You're going to accomplish a lot through training through the different pillars that I described to you and that we kind of unpack as I'm training my dog Rip, just for anyone who wants to join that journey. But there's also this element of things can happen that you can't quite prepare for. When that happens, because it probably will at some point, it's really wise to have your backup plan. For me, the way I like to train off-leash reliability is once the dog is really, really, really understanding the concept of off-leash reliability and running to you when called quite a bit successfully, maybe with a 90% success rate, then I like to overlay and condition the dog to an e-collar. For some people, that's a dicey word. For others, they love it. The way that I train with an e-collar is the whole point is to phase out the need for it, but to have it available if you absolutely need it in an emergency. It's actually, in a weird way, one of the best ways we can love our dogs. Because if you don't have something like an e-collar and you take your dog off leash and they're not reliable off leash, and they say, screw you, I'm going into the Catoctin Mountains, good luck. What are you going to do? So yes, you can track them. Maybe if you have, some sort of tracking device, and that's great. But at some point, they've got to come back to you, right? And so I think it's really important to have a backup plan. And again, the way I like to train my dogs and my clients' dogs for a true off-leash reliability program is to utilize the e-collar properly, safely, humanely, patiently, with the hope of phasing out the need for the stimulation, but having it when we need it and making sure we teach the dog what to do if they feel the stimulation from the e-collar, right? We don't want to just say, I call my dog, they don't come back, and so I blast them at a high level on the e-collar, and they come back running with their tail between their legs slowly because they're not really interested in coming back because your relationship sucks, right? That's not good e-collar training. That's not good e-collar conditioning. But if you have safety in mind and you have long-term goals in mind, an e-collar can be an amazing thing for your dog. All right? Just something to think about. For me, that's my contingency plan. If my dog says, nope, I'm not coming back, then we will have rehearsed that when they feel the stimulation, that means they probably didn't obey the command and they must return to where I'm at, or they must run looking for me wherever they think I am. That's how I do it. You could have an e-collar can be an amazing tool in the right hands, but if it's in the wrong hands, it can be disastrous. And some of you have seen that or feel that to the core. Similarly, let's say you give somebody a hammer, they could use that hammer to help build something nice for their neighbor, or they could use that hammer to vandalize their neighbor's house. So I hope you're the kind of person that would take a tool like the e-collar pretty seriously, because there's a lot of bad information about how to train with those. But if you have a very short temper and you're not really kind to your dog, like, don't get an e-collar. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's the right fit for you. But if you love your dog and you really want long-term freedom for them, fulfillment in the open air as if they were a farm dog at times, An e-collar can be wonderful. Sorry for this taking so long, but it's a pretty important topic. Pillar number 7 is really important. Remembering to review the skills with your dog. So maybe for the next 2 to 3 months, you're working nonstop on developing off-leash skills. And then let's say you're doing so great, you and your dog are rolling, it's really working out. And then a year goes by, and during that year, you've just been busy. You haven't had a chance to take your dog off leash legitimately. It's really worth helping your dog and advocating for your dog by revisiting the skills, going through proofing phases again, and making sure that they have the best understanding possible at multiple levels before you go out and just assume they remember. So review, review, review. Don't expect your dog to be perfect. It's just something you need to maintain. The skill needs to be maintained. All right, everyone, a really quick review of the 7 pillars that I would suggest if one of your long-term goals is to train your dog to be off-leash reliable. Ready? Pillar number 1, reflecting on why you even want your dog to be off-leash reliable in the first place. What's your motivation? What's your purpose? Pillar number 2, what are the relationship dynamics between you and your dog? Essentially, does your dog even have a reason to want to come back to you? Pillar number 3, front-loading the finishers. Really important. We'll get to it later. Pillar number 4, your commitment to scaffolding your dog's learning and understanding throughout the training process. Pillar number 5, working on developing your response skill set for when your dog is actually running back to you. How are you going to handle that moment? What job do you have in that context? Pillar number 6, prepping and training for a contingency plan. For me, the way I like to train, that would be proper conditioning of a high quality e-collar with the goal of not having to use it. So you have to have a plan. You can't be crazy, chaotic about it. Pillar number 7, remembering to review with your dog. If you watched the video this far, I really appreciate that. Thanks for giving me the time of day just to hear me out with something I'm really passionate about. I want to invite you to follow me on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube page, and consider joining our free online learning community. I call it the Confetti Dogs Learning Community. You can call it whatever you want. It's just a place where you can come, ask questions about dog training, hang out with other people who care deeply about their dogs, and people who want to learn and grow so that they can be the best for their dogs, to give back to the dogs what they give to us. So please consider joining that group. I would love it.